Hello, it's Bailey and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you my February TBR, but I'm going to be putting this together a little bit differently, or I guess I'm going to be putting it together the same way I usually do, but I'm actually going to bring you guys along for the process. I'm hoping that this video turns out how I want it to. It may end up being a lot of editing, but we're here to do it. So I haven't thought about my TBR for the month at all really, and I'm gonna walk you through how I build this TBR. So the first thing I look at when I'm building my TBR usually is I pull out my bullet journal. I don't do planning in this. It's mostly just lists and such, but I do have a page for book clubs, and so I've written down the book club announcements I've seen and the books that would be picked for February that I would be interested in. If a book club that I follow posts their pick and I'm not really interested in it, I don't write it down in this list. These are the ones that I'm actually interested in participating in. And so my book club, the Shelf This Book Club, in the month of February, we do not have a book. So other ones I wrote down were I would like to participate in this month's Literally Dead book club, which is hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala. They are reading Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby in February, and I have this little notepad to write this down as I'm saying these books. I do actually own this book, so it's a good one for me to put on my TBR. And then the Krusty Club, hosted by Chanel from Chanel Time, is reading 7 Days in June by Tia Williams in February, and I also own this one, so I may as well put this on the list as well. The other ones I have written down, but I'm not going to say for sure I'm gonna read, are Jade War by Fonda Lee. Mel Reads is hosting a read-along with that series, and I am still hoping to read Jade City this month, but obviously if I don't get to that, I'm not gonna be getting to Jade War in the next month. The Book Troop, hosted by Gabby from Gabby Reads, is reading The Silent Woods. I'm not sure who that's by, but I do have a hold on it for my library that I'm not 100% sure is going to come in on time. And then I also joined Katie Colson's Patreon, and her book club on her Patreon is going to read Bunny in February, and I put a hold on that as well. We'll see if I get to it, not sure. So after looking at book clubs, definitively the two that I'm putting on my TBR are these two. And so at this point, or at every point throughout this, I then like to make sure that I'm sitting at 75% owned books, as that's a big goal for me this year. And I also like to make sure I'm at least 30% authors of color, which these both are. So we're at 100% and 100% owned as well. So doing good so far. The next thing I like to look at is series I'm actively working on. So any series I read in the previous month, I try to put the sequel on the next month. So I'm gonna pull some of those that I'm hoping to get to in February. I definitely would like to get to Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. I read the first two in this trilogy in January, so I'd like to finish it out. I would also like to continue my reread of the Throne of Glass series, and I am on Tower of Dawn, so I'm throwing this one on the list. And continuing my Hunger Games reread, I would like to get to Mockingjay. So after that, we're still sitting good on all of my stats that I'd like to, keep an eye on. I haven't added anything that I don't actually own yet. I am participating in the Buzzwordathon challenge in 2022, and the buzzword for February is pronouns. So I'm planning on reading Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I'm planning on listening to this on audiobook, so there's the first one that I don't actually own. So we are up to 6 books on just getting through that basic baseline of how I kind of start my TBRs. And I mentioned last month that every month this year I want to randomly choose a book from my shelves to reread. So I'm gonna do that now. I did count my books on my shelves before I started this, and I have 211. So I've got my random number generator pulled up, and we're gonna randomly generate from 1 to 211. I didn't mention last month when I did this, but my criteria for a reread, if it's a standalone, anything that I haven't read in the last 2 years, so if I've read it more recently than 2 years ago, I don't have to reread it. For a series, if I read it more than 3 years ago, and then if it's something I've already reread, I've read it twice or more, I wouldn't reread it unless it had been 5 years. So that's kind of the criteria I'm going off of here. So I got number 208. So I'm gonna go see what book that would be. Okay, the book that was number 208 is actually The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I read this in April of 2019, so we're gonna be trying this again. I did give this 5 stars the first time, and I think a lot of people actually don't like this one. This was my first Ruth Ware, so I think it's a good one to try to reread, because if I end up not liking it as much, then I can get rid of it. The next thing I'm randomly choosing this year is a letter of the alphabet to get through my books I owned before 2022. I'm trying to get through all of them, and I'm choosing 3 each month based on the author's last name. So I need to get a letter, and I don't actually have a letter generator, so I use a number generator 1 through 26, and then pick the corresponding letter. So I got 22, which is
A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V.
so ending in author last name V. If I don't have them with author last name V, it's the next ones in line, essentially, alphabetically. And I'm seeing that I don't have any with the letter V, so I don't have options here, and I'm just gonna pull the 3 that would be, I think they're all W's. Let me pull them. We will have the last Ruth Ware that I have to catch up on, so I'll have 2 Ruth Wares this month, and I will have In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. Then I'll have The Martian by Andy Weir, and then Valentine by Elizabeth Wetmore. So that pulls us to 10 books, and I'm gonna quickly go through and just check the stats of this 10 book stack quick. Okay, I'm happy with how everything is looking so far, but now I do have like a note on my notes app on my phone of just how I like to add other books, more books. So these 10 will be the top priority for me for the month, but we all know that I'm adding more books than 10 books to my TBR for the month. So in my notes here, the first thing that it says would be my book club book, which there isn't one, then my random reread, which I have, my owned before 2022, which I have, other book clubs. I'd like to participate in at least 1 other book club, and I have that on my list already. Then I have to stay at least 30% authors of color. I like to have at least 1 sequel, which I already have. I like to have at least 1 book that has LGBT representation, which Razorblade Tears I know does, so that's off the list. I like to have a 2022 release, which I don't have yet, so I'm going to look for a 2022 release. I'm going to be going with an ARC I have on NetGalley, which is How to Be a Wallflower by Eloisa James. So there's my 2022 release. Then I like to have a 2020 or 2021 release, which I know for sure Razorblade Tears and 7 Days in June both are. And then I like to have something that was published between 2010 and 2019. I think I have quite a few of those here. Let's just check one. The Martian by Andy Weir, published in 2011, so that works for that. And then I like to have 1 book that was published before 2010, and I don't actually think that I have one of those on my list so far. So what I'm going to be choosing for that is Blindsided by Karen Slaughter. This was published in 2001. I had started her Will Trent series, not realizing that it's kind of set in the same world as this. And so I've gotten pretty far in that, and now I kind of want to backtrack to this one. This was actually, I think, her first published book, so I'm adding this to my list. I have that I would like my list to be at 75% owned books. We'll go back and kind of reflect on that after I finish here. I like to have at least 2 of my Book of the Month books on my list. I currently have Razorblade Tears and Valentine, both our Book of the Month books. I want to have a book from my 5-star predictions in my stack, so I'm going to be adding another book here, which is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I'm really anticipating this one, so here we go. And I think that's the last one I have on my previous 5-star predictions, so I should be able to reflect on that soon. And the last thing I have on this list in my notes app is a NetGalley book, which I already added with How to Be a Wallflower by Eloisa James. So we're now at 13 books in my stack, but what happens here is that I am now under my 30% that I tried to aim for authors of color. So now I'm going to go in and add some of those to even my list out. I think this is something good to look at before I start the month. If it's not happening organically, it is something I want to look at and actively pursue hitting that goal. So I'm going to add some in. I think the best thing I can add, because this will also help me finish a series, would be The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. And then I am going to go ahead and reflect back to where we started in this vlog, where I said Jade War was going to be on my radar as long as I finish Jade City in January. And I'm going to officially add Jade War to my TBR for February. So if I don't end up getting to Jade City, I will also read that in February. And so that's how I build my TBRs every month. I'm gonna go ahead and rewind all of these books that I mentioned here. Firstly, I have Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas, Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, Know My Name by Chanel Miller, The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware, and then also In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, Valentine by Elizabeth Wetmore, Blindsided by Karen Slaughter, Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, and this one almost escaped me because I said it somewhere silly, and lastly is The Martian by Andy Weir. So that's a pretty good stack for the month of February. There's 15 books here. I'm hoping to be able to get through all of those. I've been doing pretty well on my maternity leave, but I will be going back to work halfway through the month. I think I go back to work on the 14th. So this may be a little bit hopeful, but I'll try my best. I think I'm planning on doing just weekly vlogs for the month of February, so stay tuned to hopefully see me read all of these. And thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!